morning prayers, the morning after Passover. Passover was amazing. It celebrates our freedom, the Jewish people's freedom from slavery in Egypt. But we have to celebrate the freedom from slavery every day, because we could be slaves to society, slaves to ourselves, self-centered. So every day we have to realize that to go beyond ourselves, we have to go to something bigger and higher, which is obviously the purpose for which we were created. Everyone's shuckling, the shaking. This place is more busy than ever, more lively than ever, and celebrating the joy of life. You know, often people get so upset when there's death, but are they as equally happy or happier when there's life? You know? This is an old friend of mine, Rabbi Zalmanov, and he lives in Indiana, right? And Marcus is dying to find out, what are these black boxes on people's heads?
Well, they're not GoPros, that's for sure.
What are they?
Right? They're black leather boxes, actually made of real cowhide, and they contain 4 small scrolls, each with a handwritten passage from the Bible. 4 different sections, and if you can tell, if you look up close, there's 4 sections in each one. On the head one, and on the hand one, it's all one section. So in the head version, there are 4 individual scrolls, and on the hand box, they're one long scroll that has those same 4 sections in it. And the Bible commands us to bind it on our head, between our eyes, and on our hands.
So one of them you bind by your bicep, which is next to your heart, right? Represents your emotions. And one of the boxes goes on your head, next to your mind, which represents your intellect. So it shows that throughout the day, your emotions and your intellect should be in sync with God and your community and your fellow human beings. So it's a reminder. So he's wrapping it now. He's making the Hebrew letter Shin, which is the first letter of God's name. And now he's wrapping it 7 times, because we each have 7 emotions.
Religious Jews do it, and obviously there are those that are more religious or less religious, but those that are strictly Orthodox religious will do it every morning, except for on the Sabbath. We remember God with our minds and with our hearts.
Welcome to Brooklyn. And I miss this place. Passover means the scribe. Don't worry, I'll describe everything to you. Okay, we're in. And here they make Judaica items, ritual items, which are used pretty much every day in the Jewish faith by hand from scratch. So they make these the way they've been making them for thousands of years, not with computers and not with machines, but rather they write every letter that goes on the parchment by hand with a quill. This is the Hasofer the scribe, and I told him, don't worry, I'll describe everything to you. And they also have a YouTube channel themselves, and you could subscribe. His father-in-law is the head scribe here. Remember, we were just learning about the black boxes. So because the boxes have parchments which have ink, you know, the little Torah portions, you need to make sure that the ink doesn't smudge or fade away. Twice every 7 years, you have to send those black boxes with the parchments inside of them to the scribe. And the scribe does a mini surgery. He cuts open the stitching, takes out the parchments, analyzes them, making sure that the letters are still written correctly.
So it's like you get them serviced.
Exactly. It's like an oil change. Everything has to be done, written by hand and reviewed in person. But because we live in the age of technology, they came up with some technology via the computer that you could be more, accurate, or you could double check, but nothing replaces the personal touch here. So there's nothing more personal than a handwritten letter, which we forget in the days of email and text. The actual workroom, a Hasidic sort of art studio. The parchment which they write on starts off with the hide of a kosher animal. This is not paper from a tree. It went from this to this. So they take the feather, they cut it down ever so carefully until it becomes this little point. And it's called a kulmis, but it's a quill, and they start writing the Hebrew letters using ink. The best ink comes from gall nuts from Aleppo, Syria. How are the boxes made? Those are not wooden boxes. Those are boxes that come from usually a cow or a calf, and they come from the hardest piece of skin, which is from the cheekbone. This is how it starts off. And they usually do this in Israel. They mold it, and they mold it until eventually it turns into 4 boxes. And eventually it starts looking like this. At some point, it looks like this. This is not from wood, those black boxes. It's from skin. But they harden it until it becomes super hard because they don't want it to get damaged. Reshape it again. It's turning into 4 boxes. And then here we go. Look at this. The last step is they paint it with the ink. They put in the parchments. As you can see here, these are the parchments written with the Hebrew alphabet, different portions from the Bible. Now, sometimes they could be very large, the boxes, like the ones we saw in the synagogue. But look at this. Look how small they could be. Travel size. Is every pair of tefillin has the Hebrew letter shin, which has 3 legs. But if you notice, 3 stems on the Hebrew letter shin, which is the first letter of God's name. Turn on the other side, the shin has 4 legs. Why is that? Well, 3 forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the 4 mothers, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Also 3 plus 4 is 7, the branches of the menorah in the Holy Temple. Most people don't even know that because you just sort of take it for granted. And this is the holiest artifact in Judaism, the Torah scroll. Now, as kids, we're told if, God forbid, a Torah scroll falls on the floor in the synagogue, for example, you have to fast for 40 days. And one of the parts of the ceremony in the synagogue when you read the Torah scroll is you lift up the Torah scroll. So some of them are very big and heavy. So we're always very careful to get somebody who had their Wheaties that morning. Prepare yourself. You're about to enter into a holy space. Welcome to the Torah scroll room. You can see there are dozens and dozens of Torah scrolls literally sent from every corner of the globe. So some of the Torah scrolls are very large, as you can see, and some of them are very small, tiny, like this one right over here. Every single letter that's written in the Torah scroll, which is the 5 books of Moses, it starts off with the most famous verse, in the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. And it ends with, Moses' death, and the Jewish people are entering into the land of Israel. Back in Spain and Portugal, several hundred years ago, they wrote on deerskin. And they recently found this in Portugal, this Torah scroll, which may have been hidden during the Holocaust. Unfortunately, it's beyond repair, so it's going to go back to Portugal and be displayed in the synagogue, but not fit for use. This is the tefillin, the black boxes. Look, that's Hebrew writing. There we go. These scrolls are what are called mezuzahs, because on every doorpost in every Jewish home besides the restroom, they have these little parchments, as you can see, like right here. So, let's say if you have a big house, that's a lot of mezuzahs. Now, in the mezuzahs, you have handwritten by a scribe the most famous prayer in Judaism. As you can see, the first line, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, God is one." In Hebrew, that's Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Here, actually, they train scribes to become expert scribes. As you can see here on the dry erase board, they're showing them between each letter, there's a certain distance. These are the crowns on each letter. It gets very intricate, very detailed. And as I said before, the scribes, they're highly trained, they're highly skilled, and they're highly dangerous. They're using sharp instruments. Okay. Every type of race and religion is welcomed here in Crown Heights, welcomed into the synagogue, into my Hasidic home. And we take groups to the scribe, we show them the ritual bath, and it's all in a way of getting to know each other, in a way of talking about the most important, fundamental issues in life. So I look forward to seeing everyone. If you want to reach out to us, feel free to visit jewishbrooklyn.nyc or go on Airbnb Experiences and check out Hasidic Brooklyn. I just did a promo. Ouch.